Welcome back, everyone. I'm Zell, and today we're looking at the Todd Knife and Tool Raptor XL. Alright, so inside this box we have a Raptor XL, prototype number 1. And there it is, and let's get a look at the authenticity card. We have Raptor XL prototype. It was made in June of 2017. Designed by Seth, Todd, and myself. It has a 440C blade with a Cerakote micro slick finish. And 440C is our prototyping steel. And the handle is titanium frame lock with blasted and natural TI. Serial number 101, and that's signed by Seth, Todd. So let's get the knife out of here and see what we've got. Alright, there are a lot of little details to take in here, guys. This is somewhat similar to our regular Raptor, if you watched that video. Well, what we've done here, though, is blasted and stonewashed our regular titanium, and then we went back through and milled the accents and left the mill pattern on there. And that's what we've got through there. I was one that kind of liked that a lot, so we left it. And Raptor standards now, we have our cutout in the scale here, and our back spacer has our lanyard slot in it, and that's done so that if you don't like lanyard slots, it doesn't take up any extra handle, and it gives you a little bit of, you know, kind of a styling thing there. And we got our 3 holes back here, of course, and a semi-custom pivot. Rolling it around the back side, we have done some cutout on the back spacer, and that's to catch any and every bit of lint that's in your pocket, and a nice easy collection point so that whenever you take the knife out, you can slide it off there and not have to worry about putting a lint roller in your pocket. Over here we have these little cutouts again that we'll talk about in ergonomics. And we have our flipper tab. Once again, we don't put any jimping on our flipper tabs as of right now. And we try to keep our flipper tabs at a good angle so that your hand can slide down in your pocket easily. Rolling around to this side, we have a same style pocket clip, but we have made a mill cut down the pocket clip to give it a bit more style. And we have our lock bar relief, and we have a couple of small relief cuts here that we'll talk about again in ergonomics. And we're also marked prototype number 1. This is the only Raptor XL in existence as of today, and it's well centered right down the wickets. And from here we'll get this blade out and do some size comparison. And we're just going to do our standards and maybe a couple more, but there's our Buck 110. And we're lighter than the Buck 110. We've got 4.25 inches of blade here. So we've got more blade than the Buck, more blade than the Rat. And we weigh less than the Buck, and we only weigh a tad bit more than the Rat. This knife weighs in at 5.36 ounces. And get these guys out of the way. And we'll, of course, throw our Delica up here just for the size comparison. And for fun, let's get the regular Raptor out. And we've got a Hinderer XM18 and a Todd Begg Bodega and a Ricasso Torrent. All very nice knives, and all way more than the Raptor XL by at least a little bit. The Hinderer may be fairly close. I don't remember exactly. But the other two are well over Raptor XL weight. And from here, let's get a look at this blade. We have 4¼ inches of 440C in this model. We have a few more angles, as you can see, than we did on the Raptor. We've crowned the blade some. We have that big blade hole, big blade slot here that we'll talk about in ergonomics. Still fullered all the way down on both sides, flat ground to a nice thin behind the edge, and that's, I believe that was 16 and a half degrees whenever I put that thing up on the KME. and gave it that nice mirror edge. So pretty nice. One thing I do want to talk about is our Ricasso area on the Raptor series. And not all Raptors are going to have this for sure, but I do want to talk about it on this one. We left the 90-degree Ricasso in, and we had some conversations about this, and we decided to leave it. And here is the reason that we decided to leave it. If you're skinning something, or that nasty box comes out of the alley whenever you're walking home and you have to shred some cardboard to make it safely home, this area right here gives you a bit of a tactile stop whenever you're making a thrust into whatever material it may be, but especially soft materials. It gives you a bit of an indexable, or it's something to let you know that you need to stop here. And if you do get past here, this forward finger choil is deep enough to keep your index finger in place, but the curves are still soft enough that you can pull it back out of whatever soft material you stuck it in and not get it hooked on that material. And just for example, I'll show you on the hinderer. I'm not picking on Rick's design, but because his is for different purposes. But here's the thing. Anybody that's used one of these blades can tell you, if you're cutting cardboard or some other soft material and you get back past this edge of the blade, you have a hard time getting it back out of that material. You usually have to lift back up on the heel of the knife to pull it out of the material. You can't just pull it back out. And that's what we were trying to avoid there. Now, are all of the Raptors going to end up with that Ricasso area? Maybe, maybe not. We have talked about making some with the softer Ricasso area, and so it will be a design feature on some models and maybe not all models. And so there is your blade, guys. 4 1/4 inches, 4-inch blade length, 4 millimeters thick, or 0.156, and I think it came out pretty darn well. And one more thing to note, get this wrap closed up here so I don't cut myself, is we do have a modified Wharncliffe. If you get a good look there, you can see that the front of that blade has just a little bit of belly to it. That's to facilitate you doing your everyday tasks a little easier, and to give you just a little bit of raise to that point in case you do need to make a thrust. So those are some of the small things we thought about in blade design. Tell us if you have other ideas, because that's kind of what we're showing them off for. If you've got ideas, we will take any and every idea into consideration as we move forward with the design progression on these knives and move forward to production, mid-tech, and customs. So anyhow, that's the blade, and from there we're going to move into the pause and read card. And like I said in the beginning, it is a prototype, so everything on those pause and read cards are subject to change. Alright, the mechanical bits of this knife, we're running on ball bearings, of course. It's a flipper, and it's got that blade hole in it. And we'll talk about the blade hole a little bit more in ergonomics. We're not going to talk too much about the pivot, because I'll let you look down in there. See if you can see anything that might be a little different. Remember, it's running on ball bearings. But we're not going to fully talk about that pivot until we have a mid-tech or a production model out in the wild, or even a custom possibly. But there, as you can see, everything works well. Our lock system hidden down under that flipper tab right there, locking up at about, about 30% or so. Right now they are titanium that has been carburized on steel. And we haven't had any problems with them. We haven't had any lock stick or any issues, and that's part of getting the geometry of that little area right. Will help to mitigate that or make it not even show up. And carburizing it And of course, we do plan to move to lock bar inserts as time goes on. We just haven't had any problems yet, so as we've been getting the design kind of nailed down, we haven't worried about it because we haven't had a problem. We've had really good lockup with no blade play and no lock stick, so it's been pretty good so far. So let's get this guy in the pocket and get a look at that, because we really need to get on to ergonomics before we turn this into a super long video, because that is going to be kind of a long section. An important section. You'll want to see that. So there you go. There's the pocket clip. And just like with the Raptor, we get a big bunch of the knife down in there. Not a terrible amount sticking up. We do get the lanyard slot above the pocket, so you don't have your lanyard sticking out funny up here. It's going to lay over nicely. Like we talked about, we milled out a section of that just to give it some flair. And this particular pocket clip is very long. Now, I kind of like it. I didn't at first, but once I figured out how to get it in and out of the 511 cargos that I usually wear, it's actually kind of great because, I don't know, maybe a ½ inch of the pocket clip ends up in that little hole that the 511 cargo pants, it's kind of a little pocket for pocket clips, if you will, that they've got in those pants. So you have just the knife and about that much of the pocket clip that's exposed, and it works out really, really nice. However, we probably will shorten the pocket clip up some for any future models of this knife. But anyhow, there you go. And let's get into ergonomics. We've got some stuff to talk about there. First off, very simple handle design, just like we talked about with the regular Raptor. Wrap your hand around it, you're in good. Even though there's no jimping here, you're still locked in quite well for your everyday tasks or whatever you need to do with the knife. One thing I want to make a note on here is we did not just scale up the Raptor. This is a complete redesign to accommodate the larger blade and the larger handle and get everything back to the way it should be. So many companies do that, just scale things up, and we know how that goes. It's usually not great, or scale them down to make the micro or the mini. It's just not a good thing. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. But there we go. Simple handle design. I don't have any hot spots. Everything works well. You got this forward finger choil. It puts your hand in a slightly different position, and your thumb ramp here still works really good. If you need to get down for close work, that's where that big jimping comes in. And it is big jimping, boys and girls. But you get on it like that, and yeah, you know it's there. And yes, it's going to leave little imprints in your thumb, but it's not sharp. It's not something that's going to cut you. But if you're doing something where you need to get that in there, it's going to hold you in place. And that's why it is the way it is. And it does a good job with it. And we didn't really talk about the action much, did we? But, I mean, look at that. Anyhow, the other piece, let's get it in the other grips, and then we'll talk about that other piece. You can get it however you want to. This is a grip I want to talk about just a little bit. Whenever we were talking about this, we have all kinds of different butt designs for knife handles, and we tried a bunch of them. And this is what we come up with, and this is why we come up with it. With our hands and some other people's hands, we put it in. You lay it there, and your thumb goes over it. And it works for a variety of hand sizes. You know, now you get on the extremes, very small, very large, and things are going to be different. But it allows you to thumb cap it and get the end of your thumb around this edge here and really have a good positive grip on the knife in that reverse grip. And you know, you can get it in your pinch grips, that weirdo pinch grip I use. And guys, simple handle design always works, or dang near always works. And that's one reason that's what we've got here. We didn't want to try to reinvent the wheel or anything like that. Now, on to some things that I didn't talk about earlier that I want to. We showed these off. These little mill cuts right here and right here. Now here's what they're for. You go to flip this knife, your index finger, no matter whether you're doing this, but especially when you're doing this. That's a little landing pad, little indexing point, which means every time you flip this knife, your index finger is going to end up in the same place, and you can get the knife rolled over and locked in the proper grip right away, because your index finger ends up in the same place every time. And that's what those little spots are for. Now, we have other little milled out indexing points, indexing spots right here on either side of the blade hole. And those are basically because Seth and I share the same affliction, if you will. We're both what they call cross-dominant, which is almost ambidextrous, but not quite, mostly confused. But it means both our hands want to do things. They don't want, we don't favor one hand severely over the other whenever it comes to manipulating things. So whenever we have a knife that doesn't allow our left hands to do things, it's kind of annoying. So that's why there's a little index right there, so it's easy to find and easy to roll that blade open to get that somewhat more silent opening. Same thing here. Now these are not really thumb flick holes. They are put where they're put so that whenever you stick your thumb up there, you have enough torque at that point to get through the detent easily. That's exactly why they're there on both sides of the knife. Now, one nifty little thing they do give you is you can spidey flick it with either hand fairly easily. And another bit that I really enjoyed, Seth snuck this one in here on me, is we have same sort of thing right there. On both sides of the knife, just those little indents make a huge difference, especially with that left hand, of knowing where to put your thumb to unlock this knife and do it safely. See that? If you have your thumb in that little indexing slot right there, that flipper tab is going to hit your thumb, tell you to get it out of the way to close the knife. Same thing with the right hand. And that's why they're there. One other thing I need to show, we'll get that rat back out here because he's got the flat back. The flipper tab and the no jimping and the angles on it are designed for that right there. Whenever you stick your hand down in your pocket, you should be able to stick your hand down in your pocket and not end up grabbing onto the flipper tab. It's not like some knives where you have a large flipper tab just sticking out the back end to nowhere. And let's get another look at it. And you know, guys, I'm sure there are little details that I miss talking about, because I've looked it over and I've looked it over and I've discovered and I've forgotten details. And even whenever you're part of the design, the details jump out after it's finished, because there's things that happen that you may not have even realized whenever you're putting the knife together. But this is the Todd Knife and Tool Raptor XL. Seth and I designed it. Seth done the milling on it to get it together and sent it up here, and we sharpened her up, and now we're putting her on video for you guys. And what we would like to know is any ideas you have, any pluses, any minuses you see to this design, and we will take everything into account as we roll forward with more designs, because we want to bring you what you want. Now, of course, that's within some parameters we've set for ourselves, but we want the community to have some input here to help us form a great knife, a great series of knives that are fun to flip, fun to have around, don't weigh your pockets down so much that you can't wear your gym shorts. And yeah, I know the XL version may still do that, but the regular Raptor you can carry in your gym shorts. And knives that are there to protect you and take care of those letters and boxes and all those other things that you do during the day, because the every damn day on the back of our shirts, I think it's on the back of the one I'm wearing today, is really what we're shooting for. Todd knife and tool every damn day. In your pocket every damn day. Carried all the time. The knife that you want to pick up whenever you get up in the morning, and maybe you've got 50 or 70 knives laying there, but that's the one you pick up and put in your pocket. That's what we're aiming for. That's why we've got every damn day on the back of the shirts. And if you have ideas, let us know. Like I said, we will take everything into consideration, and we will be coming up with new designs. We have the Master Chief that will be on its way up here very soon. And with the Master Chief, we're doing some things somewhat similar and somewhat a lot different. You just have to wait and see till it shows up. But this has been the Todd Knife and Tool Raptor XL. I really thank you guys for taking time to hang out with me and get a look at this knife. And anybody that comments, gives us feedback, I really, really appreciate it. This one, I think so far is my favorite as far as a carry knife. And I know it's a big one with that 4.4 inch blade, but you know, I don't have all those crazy rules here, so I can carry it. And for those of you that do live in those places, we have the micros, and we're going to be working on getting those out to you as well, because, well, we rather like those micros for left-hand knives, or left pocket knives. And have a great day, guys, and I will see you next time.